Here, I think the first thing that we need to do is people need to actually realize what our reality is. I think there are people that believe this is going to be a rough 4 years and we're going to have to suffer through it. But it's not just going to be 4 years if we don't act and support disobedience. We have a bunch of different movements across the state that, if they were to come together in unity towards the ultimate system, we say the whole damn system is guilty. So we have to fight the whole damn system to beat the whole damn system. And we have to do it together.
Hey y'all, thank you so much for being here with Say Live Streams. Again, I'm Attica Scott, former state representative, and I am joined today by a very dear friend of mine, Destiny Kelly with The Revolution KY. We're going to talk about what that is in a minute, but welcome, Destiny.
Hey, Attica.
So I want to start by asking, we get right into it here. So I want to start by asking you, what brought you out to the streets in 2020?
I was a day 3 Breonna Taylor protester, and where I live, it takes a little while for the news to get out there. So I didn't actually know y'all were there until day 2. But as soon I've just always, when I was younger, my mom used to get mad at me because I would be like, "That's not fair. That's not fair," and she would say, "The world's not fair, Destiny. Get used to it." But I knew that these were people's rights and they were being abused. And so I brought my then 18-year-old daughter. I had on flip flops and came down there with my phone to show the rural people, to all the people on my friends list, that nobody was actually doing anything wrong. But within 30 minutes of being there, they unloaded on us and I had my daughter and I lost my flip flops. I drove her all the way home, put on my tennis shoes, and came all the way back every day after.
So I want folks to hear what Destiny just said. She's coming from a rural community, so shout out to all of our rural folks, particularly our folks over in Appalachia who stood with us 10 toes deep. Some people were able to show up in 2020 physically. Some people went to social media to share the story. So thank you to everybody who did that, because we knew we couldn't share the story by ourselves. It had to be shared by other folks. So thank you for that. Thank you, Destiny, and your daughter. So that was 2020, and it's been almost 5 years.
Yeah, coming
Right.
up on it.
Coming up on 5 years in a few months.
Yeah, my first day was May 30th.
So May 30th. So what has your work looked like since then? What kind of advocacy or public policy work have you continued or launched or started since 2020?
Well, on Breeway, and it was really the first time that I felt like I was around a whole bunch of people that were like me, that saw the world in the same way I did. Because where I am did 75% vote for Donald Trump. So that's really what kept me coming back to the square. Is like I just felt home there, and a part of Breeway was knowing that that was a seed and that we had the responsibility to grow that out. And I knew what my community was.
Yes.
And I knew that it was my responsibility to be the one in my community. So when Freeway kind of started going down, I went out in my community with the same mindset and feeling the same support, because I still talk to you all the time in the same way, and was immediately not welcome with that kind of vibe. And I started a C4 to create legal protections around myself, so that I could do what I knew I was called to do. And that's how the revolution started. And it was just me, and it was just one event that I wanted to have, and they weren't going to tell me no. I learned that there are loopholes, and I will find them and do the action anyway. From there, then Eastern Kentucky was flooded, and I ran a donation drive of kids' backpacks, and well, me and a few other people. It hasn't always just been me at all, but about me personally, I participated in that, and then it just seemed like there was the next thing and the next thing. I started going to trainings. I joined the Cave and KSEC table, and I started actively organizing a community instead of an event or an action. And I do that basically on class status, and then trying to reach my community for specific policies. Like, we don't have grocery stores either, and they are grocery prices and this and that, and then I relate that to, in the West End, they also don't have grocery stores. We're the same in that way. We have that same complaint. Let's work together on getting grocery stores.
That's right.
Education, whatever.
All of it, right? All of it. So Destiny mentioned that the Revolution KY is a 501c4, where I work full time at Forward Justice Action Network. FJAN is a 501c4. So for folks who are wondering, what is that? So you have your 501c3 nonprofits that many of you donate to. You get tax write-off because of your donations. We're 501c4. We do a lot of advocacy and public policy work, and we get to support, protest, and support good people who are running for office. So that's one of the major differences with a 501c4. So Destiny, can you tell me, what does it mean to you to show up for racial justice? Because so much of what you're talking about in the work that you do, that I follow, because follow the Revolution KY on all the social media platforms. So what does it mean to you to show up for racial justice?
Well, historically speaking, colonization in every form across the globe in every way stems from a group of white Christians that asserted dominance and white supremacy. White supremacy has oppressed, marginalized people of color, different religions, different genders since the very beginning. That's what it all stems from, is that supremacy. In the founding of America in particular, the use of black bodies, the steal and the torture and the abuse of black bodies to build a country, then you try to rid the country of their space, of their voice, but you used them to build it.
That's right.
In a land that wasn't yours in the first place. So I don't really look at it as like racial justice particularly, but the supremacy of white people and what they've done to all populations from the beginning of time. And I think that speaks a little bit more to my demographic too, because of the way misinformation and media is put out. Like, it's the black people's problem, it's the immigrants' problem, it's the females' problem, and when I broaden it out, they don't hear the buzzwords from the media as much, and they understand that it's a group of elites that have controlled our education in a way that has made us have divide, our media in a way that we don't actually know the truth, and has got us to the point that we're all with each other.
Yes. So in our last few minutes that we have together, Destiny, I want to really dig into the consent decree. So as folks know, we've had lots of updates related to that. We had Judge Beatson with his court order on Saturday requesting more information from the parties involved. Yesterday, we know that President Trump signed an executive order to halt all consent decrees. And then this morning, Councilwoman Shamika Parrish-Wright and Councilman J.P. Leninger held a press conference to update folks on all of these latest developments. So now that we're here in this reality, in this moment, how are you feeling, and what are your thoughts about the consent decree and the path forward?
I talked to Maxwell last night when he asked me to do this interview, and it had not been thrown out yet. At 6:45, I talked to Maxwell. He said, how's this consent decree going to affect the work that you do? And I said, it's not, because Trump is going to ensure that it's not carried out. It won't actually be valid. I didn't really like it anyway. There's a lot of loopholes to get out of things in that consent decree, and even if it had been instituted, ultimately the FOP would have ensured it didn't amount to anything. But at 8:30, they released a news article that he had put them out. So what I'm feeling is we are in a very predictable and real stage in American history that relates to other countries and things that have happened in the past. I feel like not everyone necessarily realizes that we're at that point, and that there will be complacency or a resistance to break the rules in a way that actually makes effective change. I hope that more people understand the reality of it, but protections like the consent decrees don't actually protect you under authoritarian regimes.
That's right.
And the only way to actually free ourselves from the whole system is to fight the system through civil disobedience and refusing to let them oppress us in that way. So I feel strategic because I do know where we are in reality, and I have looked at the timeline of German history and what the resistance needed to do to stop the tactics that are being performed. Immigration, loss of rights, just all the way around. And people of color have been fighting for Black lives, and LGBTQ have been fighting for LGBTQ rights, all these different movements. But when I go to Freeway, I didn't see Planned Parenthood. And when I go to Fairness, I don't see, ACLU. I see movements fighting their individual challenges, and everyone realizing that the whole system's guilty, but not realizing the bridge and the way we all have to fight the whole system. You all need Planned Parenthood to give you more power and more numbers and more leverage, and Planned Parenthood needs fairness to give them more power. And the unions are involved too, right? when we add these numbers together, we've got our 3.5%, which is the social, threshold of actually starting to make a change. 5%, we're rolling, we snowball, but we can't get there if we don't come to the reality that we're at, what actions we actually need to be taking, because marches are not going to become effective. Calling your legislator absolutely is not effective anymore. And understanding we have to break the rules. We might have to break the rules for their fight over here, because that's ultimately going to win our fight too. We have to see this as one fight, be strategic, and actually do it. We're all scared.
Right.
We're
exactly.
all scared.
Yeah.
But we also know that we have to fight the system, or the system will kill us all.
Exactly. So you all heard Destiny say that what we're going through right now is predictable, right? And it is. When we're talking about, especially white men who are in politics, they are predictable, right? Absolutely predictable. And we are in uncertain times. I will say that for myself. I feel a sense of uncertainty about what's going to happen next, right? I know something's going to happen next, but I'm uncertain about what it is. So I want to thank you so much, Destiny, for being here, for the truth that you are speaking, because it's vital for people to hear. I definitely support the work of the Revolution KY, one of my favorite organizations. And Destiny put out a call to action to our groups out there, our organizations doing good and important work. We got to work together, y'all. We got to be like this rather than like this, because otherwise we're going to be pulled apart, continue to be separated and divided, and they're going to pick us off one at a time rather than us being a strong coalition that cannot be defeated. So let's continue to work together, and stay tuned for our next guest. Thank you, Destiny.
Welcome. Thank you, Attica.
All right.